Okay, so we're going to start by going over the homework. We have problem 1. Now, the reason why we go to unit rates, I'm going to show you, but we use unit rates when we're trying to change a ratio to fit into a different ratio, all right? So let's look at number 1 from your homework from last night. You have 4 cups of flour are used to make 28 dozen cookies. So the ratio here is 4 to 28. 4 cups to 28 dozen, all right? The question asks you how many cups of flour will be needed for 49 dozen cookies. Now, we have to change to a unit rate because if I try to go from 4 over 28 to 49, there is nothing I can multiply the 28 by to get 49, okay? There's nothing I can do that with. So I'm going to have to simplify the first ratio to become a unit rate. And if you look at it as a fraction, 4 over 28, there's a number, they do have a factor that they have in common that they can use to simplify with, okay? Because 4 does go into 28 evenly. So if I divide the top and bottom number both by 4, 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 28 divided by 4 is 7. So that is where the unit rate is coming from. All right? So I have 1 cup is 7 dozen. Now I can manipulate that, 1 over 7, because 7 can be multiplied by something to get 49 here. So 7 times 7 is 49. I'm going to do the same thing to the top. 1 times 7 is 7. And that is our ratio that we're looking for. So in this case, 7 cups of flour would make 49 dozen cookies. All right, so now we're going to look at number 2. Okay, ignore this. A company makes charms for bracelets. Now here's where some people made mistakes here. They saw hearts and diamonds and thought they were talking about cards. This is not talking about cards. This is talking about charm bracelets. For every 12 hearts, they make 3 diamonds. If the company makes 160 hearts for a big shipment, how many diamonds? So you could say, okay, so the ratio is 12 to 3, and I need 160. Now the other thing is you've got to pay attention. Like if you started with hearts on the top, you've got to keep the hearts on the top. Because if you flip it and make it go to the bottom, it's going to mess you up, okay? So I have 12 hearts to 3 diamonds is 160. Can you multiply 12 by anything to get 160? No, you cannot multiply 12 by a whole number to get 160. So in this case, once again, I have to use a unit rate. So you start by looking at the first, you can say a fraction, it's a ratio. So look at the first ratio. Can I simplify 12 over 3? Do they have a common factor? What is the factor? 3. Yes, that's right. So if I divide the top and the bottom by 3, 12 divided by 3 is 4. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So this is where this unit rate is coming from. Okay? Now, if I take the 4 hearts over 1 diamond, and I want to get to 160 hearts, can I multiply 4 by anything to get 160? Yes. What do you multiply it by, Jonathan? 40. Okay? So whatever, and then in ratios, if you want to keep the same ratio going, if you're multiplying or if you're dividing, whatever you do to that top number, you have to do the same thing to the bottom to keep that ratio constant. All right? So I multiply by 40 on the top. I'm going to multiply by 40 on the bottom. And my answer would be 40 diamonds. 2, 1. All right, so now we're going to look at the next problem. All right, so Misty is giving her dog some medicine. The label on the bottle states that a 20-pound dog receives 2 tablespoons. What dosage would she need to give her dog that weighs 50 pounds? Okay, so the first ratio we're looking at is that for 2 tablespoons of medicine, you would give 2 tablespoons to a 20-pound dog, okay? So that's our first ratio. Now, if I tried to go from 2/20, which represents 2 tablespoons to 20 pounds, to something over 50, I couldn't multiply 20 by any whole number to get to 50, because our multiples of 20 are 20, 40, 60, 80, and so on. So I'm going to once again have to change this to a unit rate. So I have 2/20. Is there a number that goes both into 2 and 20 evenly? Andrew? 2 is correct. So I'm going to divide the 2 and the 20 by 2. And that's where I get the 1 tablespoon for 10 pounds. So for every 10 pounds, you get 1 tablespoon. All right? Now, using this ratio, 1 to 10, the dog is 50 pounds. So 10 times 5 is 50. And 1 times 5 is 5. So the answer to this problem is 5 tablespoons. Yes?
I spelled tablespoons wrong.
All right, now let's look at the next problem. Okay, so this problem was a 2-part problem. They talk about what her ratio is for how many minutes she practices the piano. So for every 20 minutes, she practices for 20 minutes for every 5 minutes of lessons. But you have to do some calculating to be able to figure out how many minutes of lessons she actually took. So they tell you that 20 minutes, she takes a 20-minute piano lesson 5 days this week. So if you look, we had to do this extra calculation here. 20 minutes times 5, that's the 5 days of the week that she went to lessons, was 100 minutes. All right? So now I'm trying to say she practices 20 minutes. This is her practice time over for every 5 minutes of lesson time. All right, now, on this particular problem, you didn't really have to find a unit rate, because am I able to go from 5 to 100? 5 to 100. Yes, 5 times what is 100? 20, good. And so in a unit rate, to keep the same ratio or the same rate, I'm going to multiply. 20 times 20 is 400. So she would practice 400 minutes because she had 100 minutes of lessons. Now, if you wanted to find the unit rate, okay, if I took the 20/5, is there a number that goes into both 20 and 5? Yes. Andrew? 5. So if I divide the top and the bottom by 5, that's going to give me my unit rate. The unit rate involves a 1 somewhere in there. Okay, somewhere in there has to be a 1. Are we good on this one? Can we move on? Good. All right, last one. A 6-pound turkey will feed about 3 adults. About how many pounds should a turkey be for a family gathering of 14? So if you look at the ratio, 6 pounds to 3 adults, and you want to go to 14, I can't multiply 3 by anything evenly to get 14. All right? So I'm going to have to find a unit rate. Is there a number that goes into both 6 and 3? 6 and 3 share a common factor, Emma? 3. So I'm going to divide the top and the bottom by 3, and that's where I'm going to get my unit rate. Now, you set up your unit rate, 2 pounds to 1 adult. You're going to put your 14 adults on the bottom. Remember which one's on the bottom, which one's on the top. If you flip it, you're going to get the wrong answer. All right? So 1 times 14 is 14. 2 times 14 is 28. So the answer to this problem is 28 pounds. You're going to buy a 28-pound turkey. All right? The last part are fraction questions. So look at the answers.